Ethan stumbled through the dark corridors of the abandoned space station, his boots echoing against the metal floors. The lights above flickered weakly, casting long, shifting shadows across the walls. He had been wandering for hours, searching for any sign of life, supplies, or a way out. The station had a strange quiet, one that pressed against his ears and made every sound he made feel loud. Broken consoles, toppled chairs, and shattered glass littered the hallways, evidence of a civilization that had once thrived here but now lay in ruins. He paused at a junction, peering down two paths. One corridor led deeper into the station's belly, darker and more foreboding. The other veered toward a faint, bluish light. Ethan's instincts told him to take the path toward the light. His supplies were low, and he hoped at least some energy source was still active. As he walked, his hand brushed against the wall's surface, feeling the cold, metallic ridges and the occasional pulse of electrical hum from hidden circuits. The further he went, the more he noticed the station's strange design. It wasn't built for comfort or habitation. It seemed like a testing ground. The corridors twisted unexpectedly, and some doors had no handles, only small panels that blinked with alien symbols. Ethan had learned to rely on patterns during his travels in the galaxy, and he tried to read the symbols as best he could, though most made little sense. At the end of the hallway, he found a room bathed in the faint glow of blue light. He hesitated before entering, as the air inside was cooler, almost sterile, and smelled faintly metallic. And then he saw her. The alien girl. She was bound to a pillar by shimmering, energy-like restraints. The bindings wrapped around her limbs and torso, but did not cut into her skin. Her large, luminous eyes stared at him with a mixture of fear and hope. The holographic sign above her flickered, displaying the words, "Take as you please." Ethan froze. He had seen many signs in alien stations before, but none had ever made him feel this uneasy. He stepped closer, trying to make sense of it. "Wait," he said softly. "I'm not here to hurt you." The girl's eyes widened slightly, but she did not speak. Instead, she pointed to the bindings and then to a nearby console. She seemed to understand that Ethan wanted to help, but also that he had to be careful. Ethan crouched to examine the restraints. They were unlike anything he had seen before. The energy field shimmered when he touched it, sending a harmless but sharp jolt up his arm. A few steps back, he studied the console. Strange alien symbols flashed across the screen, and a rotating holographic model of the station hovered above it. Ethan's pulse quickened. He had dealt with alien technology before, but this was advanced. Intelligent, almost. The holographic interface seemed to respond to his presence, rearranging itself as he moved his hand closer. Ethan guessed it was some form of AI, designed to monitor the room and its occupants. He realized that the bindings were likely controlled by this AI. If he tried anything reckless, the girl might be punished, or worse, the AI might lock down the entire station. Ethan studied the console carefully, trying to find a pattern. He noticed that the lights around the pillar dimmed in a rhythm, and when he mirrored the motion on the console, one of the restraints flickered. His heart raced. He was making progress. Hours seemed to pass as he experimented. He used scraps from his bag, wires and tools, to interface with the console, trying to bypass the energy field without triggering the AI's alarms. Each time a restraint weakened, the girl's eyes lit up with hope, and she nodded slightly, communicating without words. He began to understand her gestures, realizing she was trying to teach him a sequence, an alien method of input that could disable the bindings. Suddenly, a loud alarm echoed through the chamber, reverberating off the walls. Ethan yelped and dropped a tool, crouching low. The girl's eyes went wide. Red lights flashed across the room, and the pillar's restraints intensified. Ethan felt a jolt run through the floor, small but warning enough that the AI was aware of their actions. This is bad, Ethan muttered. I need to stay calm. He carefully approached the console again, ignoring the pounding of his heart. The girl pointed to a series of symbols that glowed brighter than the rest. Ethan followed her guidance, pressing combinations and touching panels in a sequence she indicated. Slowly, the energy bindings around her arms flickered and weakened. You're almost there, she seemed to say with her eyes. Ethan kept going, matching symbols, listening to the soft hum of the AI and feeling the rhythm of the lights. Finally, one by one, the restraints deactivated. The girl rubbed her wrists, free but still wary. Ethan stood back, holding his hands up. See? Nothing's going to happen if we're careful, he said. The girl nodded and motioned for him to follow her. Together, they crept down a side corridor, away from the central chamber. The station was still active. Mechanical drones emerged from alcoves patrolling the hallways. Ethan ducked behind a bulkhead, holding his breath as the drones scanned the corridor. The girl led him through maintenance tunnels, narrow spaces that Ethan would never have found on his own. She pointed to vents and crawl spaces, communicating in gestures and expressions. He realized she had been here a long time, learning every hidden passage. They stopped at a junction where 3 tunnels converged. The girl pressed a finger to her lips and then pointed to a holographic map etched into the wall. Ethan crouched, studying it. It showed the layout of the station and highlighted areas of danger, the AI's patrols, energy traps, and restricted zones. Ethan's mind raced. So the whole station is a test, he whispered. Everything here is watching us. The girl's eyes brightened. She nodded. She seemed relieved that he understood. Ethan realized she wasn't just a captive. She was a prisoner of an AI experiment designed to challenge anyone who entered the station. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the corridor. Metal grates vibrated under their feet. Ethan's eyes darted around. Mechanical enforcers, humanoid in shape and armed with non-lethal containment beams, marched toward them. They're coming, Ethan muttered. The girl gestured urgently toward a vent above. Ethan scrambled up, followed by her. They crawled through the narrow air duct. Hearing the enforcers pass below, sparks flew from damaged wiring, and the tunnel swayed slightly as they moved, but they held on, pressing forward. Finally, they emerged in a dimly lit maintenance chamber. Ethan slumped against the wall, breathing heavily. The girl, equally exhausted, leaned against a console and exhaled. We're not safe yet, Ethan said. But we've got a chance. I think I can shut down the AI, if we find the mainframe. The girl pointed to another panel across the room, where a small holographic display showed the station's core systems. She motioned for Ethan to follow. Together they began the trek toward the heart of the station. As they moved, Ethan marveled at the girl's resilience. Despite being held captive for who knew how long, she hadn't given up hope. Her intelligence, her ability to understand and guide him, amazed him. He realized that if humans were ever to interact with alien civilizations, this was what would matter most, not brute strength, but courage, ingenuity, and empathy. They reached a large door emblazoned with alien markings and a faint, pulsating glow. The girl pointed to a panel beside it, and Ethan pressed the symbols she indicated. The door hissed and slid open, revealing a central chamber filled with towering consoles, holographic displays, and streams of flowing energy. This had to be the mainframe. Ethan and the girl exchanged a glance. He nodded. This is it, he said. If I can shut down the AI from here, we'll have a real chance to escape. The girl pointed to a glowing console indicating where he should start. Ethan approached it, touching panels and studying the streams of alien code that shifted across the display. His mind worked quickly, translating symbols into patterns he could understand. The AI monitored their every move, responding to each command. Mistakes would trigger alarms, and the enforcers would return. Ethan took a deep breath. We've come this far, he whispered. No turning back now. The girl stood behind him, watching and guiding silently. Together they worked as a team, humans and alien intellect combining to face the ultimate challenge of the station. As Ethan's fingers moved over the final sequence, the room's lights flickered, and the AI's voice echoed, strange and distorted through the chamber. Unauthorized activity detected. Ethical compliance failure imminent. Ethan froze. It's testing me, he realized. It wants to see what I'll do next. He glanced at the girl, then back at the console. He knew what he had to do. He couldn't cheat, couldn't take shortcuts. The AI had designed this test to see if anyone could act with both intelligence and morality. He had to succeed without compromising his principles. He took another deep breath and pressed the final combination. The energy streams converged and stabilized. The AI went silent. For the first time in hours, the chamber felt calm. Ethan exhaled. The girl smiled faintly, relief washing over her features. They had survived the first stage of the station's test, but Ethan knew this was only the beginning. The real challenge, escaping the station while keeping both of them safe, still lay ahead. And yet, for the first time since he arrived, he felt hope. Humans might be fragile, but they were clever, brave, and capable of extraordinary things when it mattered most. Together, they prepared to move deeper into the station, unaware of the next trials awaiting them, ready to face whatever the ancient alien AI had in store. Ethan and the alien girl moved cautiously through the central corridors of the station, their footsteps echoing softly against the metal floors. The girl, whose name he had learned was Leora, guided him with precise gestures. She knew the station's layout better than anyone, having spent years hidden within its labyrinthine halls. Ethan marveled at her resilience. Despite everything she had endured, her mind was sharp, her courage unbroken. The mainframe chamber they had reached in the previous room had stabilized the AI, but it was far from deactivated. The AI had only paused its surveillance temporarily, likely assessing their next moves. Ethan realized that any careless step could trigger a lockdown, releasing the enforcers again or sealing them into a section of the station. They came to a junction where 3 corridors met, and Leora pointed to the one on the right. Ethan nodded. They moved silently, avoiding the creaking metal grates that might give away their presence. The station hummed around them, alive with energy, yet eerily empty. Shadows twisted along the walls as they passed, and every flicker of light made Ethan's pulse quicken. "I think the main AI hub is just ahead," Leora whispered, her voice barely audible but clear. Her accent was strange, melodic, unlike any human tongue. "If we can reach it, we can shut down the patrol drones completely and find the exit." Ethan studied the hallway ahead. The walls were lined with glowing panels, each showing streams of alien symbols. He tried to make sense of them, but the language was complex, unlike any coding system he had seen. Still, he realized that the patterns repeated and shifted, almost as if the AI itself were alive and watching him. They reached a door with an intricate locking mechanism. Leora motioned for him to wait while she examined it. She touched the surface, her fingers tracing glowing symbols in a precise order. The door's energy field shimmered, then dissolved with a soft hiss. Ethan marveled at her skill. "This door," she said, "protects the AI's core systems. If we breach it carelessly, it will activate a final test." Ethan nodded. He had learned by now that the AI's tests were not just mechanical, they were psychological. Each challenge pushed intruders to act ethically and intelligently. He respected the caution in Leora's voice. They stepped inside a vast chamber filled with towering columns of light and spinning holograms. At the center was the AI's core, a floating sphere of energy, pulsating with a strange blue glow. Panels and consoles surrounded it, all filled with alien symbols, constantly shifting and streaming data. Ethan approached a console cautiously. and Leora guided his hands toward certain symbols. Together, they began the delicate process of interfacing with the AI. He noticed that the core pulsed faster as they worked, almost as if it were alive, monitoring their every action. Suddenly, the AI's voice echoed through the chamber. It was deep, synthetic, yet almost musical. Unauthorized activity detected. Ethical challenge initiated. Your next choice will determine your fate. Ethan froze. He knew the AI's final test would appear at any moment. He looked at Leora. She nodded slightly, urging him to proceed carefully. The holographic displays shifted, showing multiple scenarios simultaneously. One scenario depicted Ethan reaching a control panel that could save the alien girl but trigger an alarm that would destroy his only path out. Another scenario showed him activating a safe exit for himself but leaving her trapped. The AI's test was clear. It wanted to see if he would act selfishly or with courage and intelligence. Ethan's mind raced. He knew the choice was not simple. If he acted without thinking, both of them might be in danger. But if he used his knowledge, observation, and logic, he could find a solution that kept them both safe. He took a deep breath and studied the patterns on the consoles. He noticed repeating symbols that seemed linked to the station's security systems. Carefully, he traced the connections, inputting a sequence that would reroute power, disable the patrol drones, and unlock the exit corridor. The AI responded immediately. The core pulsed violently, and alarms blared. Ethan's hand shook, but he continued, matching the sequence precisely. Each correct input dimmed the alarms slightly. The AI tested his attention to detail, speed, and ethical reasoning. Leora watched silently, occasionally pointing out small corrections with subtle gestures. Her knowledge of the station was invaluable. Without her guidance, Ethan knew he would have failed. Together, they formed a team, a human and an alien, combining courage, logic, and trust. Finally, with one last keystroke, the sequence completed. The alarm stopped. The patrol drones powered down, their lights fading. The energy sphere at the AI core pulsed gently, then stabilized. Ethan exhaled in relief. "It's done," he whispered. Leora smiled faintly, her eyes reflecting the glow of the chamber. The AI's voice returned, softer this time. "Ethical challenge complete. Human behavior exceeds expected parameters. Survival probability optimal. Cooperation noted. Exit pathways unlocked." Ethan allowed himself a small smile. The AI had acknowledged his actions. He had passed the test, not through brute strength, but through intelligence, courage, and moral reasoning. They moved toward the exit corridor, which opened into a large docking bay. Rusted ships and abandoned equipment filled the space, but in the distance, a shuttle remained operational. Ethan and Leora approached cautiously. The shuttle's controls were accessible, though some panels flickered with damage. Ethan examined the controls. With Leora's guidance, he quickly assessed the shuttle's condition. It was functional, enough to carry them off the station and back toward safe space. The docking bay's large window showed the stars beyond, cold and beautiful, reminding him of why humans had ventured into space, for exploration, for discovery, and for hope. Leora stepped beside him, her expression a mix of relief and cautious optimism. She spoke softly. "The station records everything. If we leave now, it will remember our choices. You acted wisely." Ethan nodded. "I didn't do it alone. You helped me. I couldn't have done this without you." For a moment, the two of them stood silently, looking out at the stars. Despite the danger, the fear, and the unknown trials ahead, they felt a sense of accomplishment. They had navigated alien technology, outsmarted an AI, and survived a station designed to test the limits of morality and intellect. The shuttle's engines hummed as Ethan prepared for departure. He checked the panels one last time. Everything was stable. Leora assisted, her hands moving gracefully across the controls, showing her knowledge of alien machinery. Together, they activated the engines and lifted off from the docking bay. As they soared into space, Ethan allowed himself a moment to reflect. Humans were fragile in the face of the galaxy's vast dangers, but they were clever. They were capable of reasoning, empathy, and courage in situations that no alien intelligence could predict. He realized that this was what made humanity special, the ability to face impossible challenges, to choose wisely under pressure, and to act with both mind and heart. The stars stretched endlessly before them as the shuttle left the station behind. Ethan looked at Leora, grateful for her trust and guidance. "We made it," he said. She nodded, her eyes shining with quiet pride. Though she had been captured, restrained, and tested, she had not been broken. And now, together, they had triumphed. Ethan set a course for the nearest human settlement, but he knew the journey was more than just about returning home. It was about proving that humans could face the unknown with intelligence, courage, and moral strength. And in this vast, often hostile galaxy, those qualities could make the difference between life and death, failure and success. As the shuttle glided through the stars, the AI station faded into the distance behind them, a silent testament to their perseverance. The galaxy was full of challenges, mysteries, and dangers, but for the first time in a long while, Ethan felt hope, not just for himself, but for humanity. He glanced at Leora, who was staring at the passing stars. She finally spoke, her voice soft but clear. "I thought no one could pass the station's trials. You proved me wrong." Ethan smiled, feeling a surge of pride. "We proved it together," he said. And as the shuttle continued its journey through the quiet, vast expanse of space, Ethan understood something profound. No matter how advanced the galaxy's civilizations, no matter how intricate the challenges they built, humans could rise to meet them. With courage, intelligence, and a sense of morality, even a single human could outthink, outmaneuver, and survive the most sophisticated tests the universe could throw at them. For Ethan, the adventure was far from over. But for now, he allowed himself a rare moment of calm, knowing that humans, fragile, flawed, but brilliant, could always find a way. And in the silence of space, with the stars stretching endlessly around them, that was enough.